Speaking of what is super fun, we probably need to talk about 11-bit studios a little bit here.
Yeah, tell me about this one.
So, shorter story for you guys here today, but 11-bit studios, these are the guys behind games like Frostpunk, Andika, something like that. They also did The Alters, their newest game, really phenomenal game. I just finished it a few days ago. Truly phenomenal game. Like,
yeah, Echelon's been addicted to that shit.
Oh yeah, no, I've been playing the living crap out of The Alters. They're a very interesting studio insofar as the games that they make always come with these incredibly heavy story elements. Even if it's something like an RTS, where Frostpunk, super RTS, but super heavy story elements, and in The Alters, it is a survival resource colony management game, but with a super heavy storytelling element to it. So they kind of love merging these almost elements that you wouldn't expect to go together. They love merging these together into something else. But effectively, what happened was some users over on the world's least angry platform, BlueSky, and I say that in air quotes because BlueSky was meant to combat the toxicity of the right. Instead, it has become the grand central of online hate. Like the amount of harassment campaigns.
I haven't been to BlueSky in a hot minute.
Yeah, dude, BlueSky is insane. Like every single time I go there, and what I love about BlueSky is every single time I look at a thread on BlueSky, someone will post something. Like even in this thread where they're sort of revealing, for those of you, let's just quickly the story. 11-bit Studios is accused over on BlueSky of using AI, and as you can imagine, BlueSky users are having a real one because the studio, Indie, by the way, dared to use AI in some of its early development. But even on this thread, right, it starts with indie stuff, and with 11-bit Studios, and they're sort of using AI. Then very quickly, you have the entire thread be people attacking other people for wasting electricity and destroying the earth because AI destroys the earth, but now other people are destroying the earth. And it just, every single thread on BlueSky is just a bunch of people figuring out what's the next thing that I can say that makes me look like a better person than the person in front of me, right? Like the person that posted before me. It's always funny to watch BlueSky have a real one. But anyway, so 11-bit Studios then comes out after this massive meltdown. And kudos to them for not actually apologizing, but merely explaining themselves. They were just like, oi, boys, we used AI early on in development because, so the game has this base area where you basically have all of these different sort of blocks, right? Like containers, effectively, and different things that happen in these containers. But the background in these containers are kind of just stock, if it makes sense, right? The backgrounds aren't really interactive. You can't do much on the backgrounds. It's just to show you, like for example, the infirmary. It'll show you the infirmary beds and a desk, but all you can do is go lie on the infirmary bed. You can't do anything in the infirmary really, except for lie in the infirmary bed to treat your radiation wounds, stuff like that. So some of that early on in development was done with AI, just to help them sort of figure out what they want. And then later on, they went in and they sort of replaced it with actual art from their art teams. And they forgot
placeholder assets.
Yeah, it's like basically placeholder assets. But they forgot some of the placeholders in one specific instance. It's this tiny little blue screen, and there's like writing on the blue screen. And they used AI to just populate
AI
the
writing. Okay.
Yeah. And the prompt is still in there.
You could have just done Lorem Ipsum.
Well, yeah, they could have done that, right? But they effectively just did the AI thing, and they forgot to replace it, right? And then, of course, BlueSky had a real one by just inventing all of the other AI that they used, even though they didn't. So saying that all of the icons are AI designed.
That's the problem, though, because when you find one thing in your game that is AI, like everything else is going to get pulled into question, because I mean, if you use it's the same thing as when somebody lies, right? If you lied about this, what else have you lied about? It just becomes a never-ending chase after, okay, what else have you done wrong, right? Because if you're capable of doing this, like, you know, it's natural that people go that route.
Yeah,
but yeah, it kind of sucks.
100% true. I just think that people are fighting the wrong fight, guys. You're not going to stop AI. Like, that's the whole point of this entire coverage. I need people to understand this. No matter how hard you fight against it, you will not stop AI. There are simply no way that smaller indie studios and AA studios can compete against AAA without the use of AI. They need AI because AI can allow them to make better games without having to hire the same amount of people. And anyone that's in here going, pay your artists, they are paying their artists. But you're not talking about paying your artists here. It's you need to understand this. You're not demanding that these guys pay their artists. Their artists are getting paid extremely well. You're demanding.
I mean, that studio, part you don't know. You know they're getting paid. That's about it.
I've heard from some people that 11-bit studios are actually they're really good to the people that work for them. They're an actually really good studio to work for. So I sort of, you know, at least according to what I've heard, right? They get paid really well. You're not demanding that they pay their artists. You're demanding that they hire more artists in order to do the work that AI could do. And at that point, what you need to understand is you very quickly go from demanding that an indie studio, right, pay their artists to demanding that an indie studio has to have the same amount of staff that a AAA studio has. This means that same indie studio, instead of being able to charge $40 for a game like The Alters, are forced to charge $70 because they now have a bloated workforce. Because you will not allow them to compete with these AAA studios. Because everyone keeps demanding that gameplay gets better, graphics get better, all of these things have to continuously get better. And these studios are trying to keep up. But if you want the better stuff, you also have to understand that they have to use whatever advantage they can get in order to get there. And for me personally,
especially in the indie space.
Yeah. Like for me personally, if they have to use AI, but they can design things like Clear Obscure Expedition 33 or The Alters, bro, use your AI because this is good shit. What I will be with you, and I will stand with you and fight with you on this, is when people start to use AI as a complete replacement for human creativity. Because we've seen what those games look like, and they don't look good. Anyways, do you have anything to add to this, or?
No, I pretty much agree. It's like, I think that using AI as a tool for helping you move forward is pretty much inevitable. I do feel like they should have been called out a little bit over the fact that, hey, there's AI art over here. What the fuck is going on? Yeah. But now that they've explained, it's like, hey, listen, this was placeholder stuff, and we have proper artists working on all of the final art for our game. I think that's fine. Yeah. Using it as placeholder to kind of like get inspiration, because it just helps, particularly because a lot of people are more visual. So like seeing things in place is much easier than just imagining them. Yeah. I think that having an AI do that, I think that's fine. Just for placeholder bullshit, that shouldn't make it into the final product, which if they had done their job properly, it wouldn't have made it. I think that's fine. And because they didn't do it properly, they get called out a little bit. I think that's fine too. Now, the problem is that, you know, people then start witch hunting, and that's kind of like inevitable.
Should also mention another part of this is some people started noticing some of the subtitles for the movies that you could watch in the game, because there's like a cinema that you can watch movies with your alters on. Some of those also appear to be done by AI. They addressed that as well and said the movies was a last minute addition to the game. They weren't going to have the movies in the game to begin with. They were just going to have you click and it's movie time, and then you get done and movie's over. But then they sort of went to a third-party studio and said, hey, could you guys make us these movies?
Localize?
Yeah. Well, they just asked, it's a third-party studio that made these movies for them. And then once they got back, they put the movies in the game. So they did say to anyone that wants to claim the movies might be AI, they said we had nothing to do with the design of the movies. So we don't know if AI may have been involved there. We just asked them to do it. But then just so that there would be subtitles on the movies, they quickly ran that through language models to get subtitles. But their actual localization teams are working on creating proper subtitles for the movies. So that's the whole story. I personally, again, feel like people are giving an indie studio a lot of flack for just using tools smartly. And especially with how bad localization companies have become, I'm sort of fine with AI just replacing that shit at this point. Because
no. You need proper localization. You do, because you do miss out on a lot of things. But you need localization that understands that people want to learn about reference, particularly when it comes to Japanese. We need localization that understands that, like, you should be teaching people about Japanese culture, not replacing some of these Japanese sayings with English, similar things.
But this is my point, right? Because of how bad it's gotten, it's probably worth them just being replaced, because right now, a lot of these localization companies are no longer doing the whole thing that you need localization for. They're just doing the whole, we'll translate it, and then we'll play God with your work, right? And we have localization people admitting that they just change the whole story. If they don't like it, they'll just change it.
And it's worth getting rid of those people, but that doesn't mean that there aren't localization teams that are doing good work.
No, there's probably localization teams that are doing a good job, but fundamentally,
there's plenty of them.
That doesn't negate the fact that there are a lot that isn't, right? The whole anime space is on fire at the moment because anime is basically getting killed by its localization people. And, just the threat. I'm not saying AI can replace these people, because I don't think it can. Because localization, as you've said, is more than just translating stuff. But just the threat of being replaced by AI might get these localization companies to shape up, right? And start doing what they're supposed to be doing in the first place. Hopefully, right? Hopefully we can see that happen. But for small indie studios that genuinely just needs to translate some stuff, I feel like, hey, if you're going to need to do that, because these things cost money, guys. Like every single time you want someone to localize your game, that's not cheap, right? They're not doing that for free. You have to pay that. And if you're just a small indie studio, you don't have that money, right? It's not like it's just lying around. Now, luckily, 11-bit Studios is one of the larger indie studios out there, so they can afford to do this. But yeah, I feel like you guys need to chill out, right? People who are so against AI, you need to chill out. There are certain companies that we can absolutely go after. Like if you have a AAA studio like Ubisoft using AI for their nonsense, no, just get out of here. But if it's an indie studio and like a AA studio using AI, they have to compete somehow. Like they don't want to.
It's the only way.
Yeah, we can start talking when you have like Ubisoft charging $100 a game, but the whole game is made by AI. Then we can have conversations about this. Otherwise, leave the indie studios just a little bit. They call them out, of course. They always call them out. But don't just hound and attack them into demanding apologies and stuff. That's just unacceptable. Okay, so